Hey guys, tonight we sail straight into a salty paradox. You're scrubbing potatoes while plotting a mutiny. A warm breeze rattles the canvas above you, and your feet are bare against splintered wood. Your hands reek of garlic and gunpowder. Your blouse sticks to your skin in the humidity, and someone just yelled, "Incoming!" from the crow's nest, though you're more worried about the stew boiling over than any passing sloop. This is not a cruise ship. It's a pirate vessel.
And you're not just aboard, you're running things from the galley to the gun deck.
You probably won't survive this, by the way, but that's a problem for daylight. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it by you? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You reach for a spoon, not a sword. Yet somehow this too is piracy. The kitchen, or galley as it's called on a ship, smells of old onions, salt pork, and wet canvas. The fire is low in the stove box, but it's temperamental. Your job today is simple. Keep the crew fed. Also make sure no one steals the biscuit ration, hides moldy cheese under the hammocks again, or slips extra rum into the porridge. You duck to avoid a low beam as the ship rocks. You've memorized every creak of this vessel. The brig sounds different when someone's in it, and the captain's quarters always groan when he's pacing. But here, in the galley, you hold the heartbeat steady. Now don't mistake your apron for a weakness. Many female pirates got their start this way, underestimated, overlooked, and able to listen while pretending not to. Take Ching Shi, for example, who began in a floating brothel but ended up commanding an empire of over 70,000 pirates in 19th century China. No one saw her coming, least of all the men she outmaneuvered at dinner. You're still new to the crew, but you've learned
Fast.
The sailor with the scar over his eye, he's terrified of rats. The powder monkey with the limp, she's deadly with knots. Everyone has a skill. Yours? Survival with a side of stew. You adjust your headscarf. It's bright red, not because you're flamboyant, but because it hides blood and kitchen grease equally well. You carry a paring knife in your sash, not for defense exactly, but you've used it once or twice to encourage fair treatment. One of the cannon crew stumbles in, sniffing. "Something burning?" he mumbles. You give him a look. He backs out again. That's right. You run this kitchen like a governor's court. No nonsense, no freeloaders, and no questions about how you turn those weevils into something crunchy and vaguely edible. There's an art to pirate cuisine. Fresh produce is gone within days of sailing, so you get creative. Salt cod gets soaked and mashed. Old bread is turned into what you generously call pudding. Rum helps. People will forgive nearly anything with enough rum. You hum as you stir. Outside, a breeze thick with brine whistles through the hatches. Somewhere on deck, someone's singing an old sea shanty about a woman who stabbed her way out of a convent to chase her lover across the Atlantic. Whether she existed is anyone's guess. Historians still argue whether some of these tales were romantic fiction or buried truths, fables written by men to explain why someone kept besting them in sword fights and disappearing with the loot. But right now, that's not your concern. You're watching the lard. If it burns, the whole dinner is ruined. Even pirates crave the comforts of home: spices, soft bread, hot drinks. You once traded a single clove of garlic for a map fragment. No regrets. The stew sings when garlic's involved. You hear the captain barking orders above deck. There's a shift in the wind, sails being trimmed, and the sudden thump of someone falling from the rigging, followed by a sheepish, "I'm fine." Pirates aren't graceful, they're resourceful, and the best ones can thread a needle just as quickly as they can pick a lock. There's a quiet camaraderie in this life, an odd balance of violence and tenderness. You've seen the meanest sailor wrap a baby bird in cloth during a storm. You've seen tattoos inked with soot and longing. You've mended shirts full of knife holes and shoulders full of secrets. That's how you earned your place. Not by boasting, but by showing up. Meal after meal. Storm after storm. You knew the weight of a cannonball before you knew how to slice salted pork, and you learned fast that the difference between respect and ridicule was knowing when to keep your mouth shut and when to tell the cook's assistant to shove off and get more wood. Tonight's menu is something close to soup, something far from fresh, and something you'd only eat under the threat of mutiny. But it's warm, and the crew will grumble less if their stomachs are full. You ladle it into battered bowls, each chipped in a different decade, and line them along the galley counter. A few sailors wander in, some grinning, some grumbling. They thank you or grunt. Same thing out here. You nod, then lean against the post. For a second, you let yourself rest. The wind hums through the timbers. The ship sways. You're exhausted, but you're also proud. You've kept them alive another day. In the corner, someone sneezes. The moldy cheese reappears. You sigh. Some battles are eternal. You don't own a wardrobe, but your fashion choices might save your life. You tighten the wrap around your chest and pull on the rough-spun breeches that you secretly tailored to fit your waist without revealing your hips. The shirt is linen, sweat-stained, salt-faded, but passable as masculine. Your boots are second-hand. One still bears the initials of the sailor who accidentally went overboard last spring, a practical inheritance. In this world, clothing is more than vanity, it's camouflage. You don't dress like a man to feel powerful. You do it to survive. You do it to board a ship that would have barred you otherwise. The captain once joked, "You had delicate wrists when you first hoisted a rope," and you laughed. Delicate wrists pulled him out of the water during that squall off Hispaniola. He hasn't mentioned them since. You check your reflection in a porthole's warped glass. The disguise is good enough. Not flawless, your walk still has a bit too much rhythm, your voice too melodic when you shout across the deck. But the sea has a way of wearing down detail. Over time, even your memories blur. Did you used to wear ribbons? What did your hair look like when it was long? Does it matter? Mary. Reed pulled it off brilliantly. She spent much of her early life disguised as her dead brother, an elaborate ruse to secure inheritance money. When she took to the sea, she slipped so easily into male garb that most of her crew didn't realize who she was until they saw her. Kill a man in a duel and later tend his wounds with a gentleness they couldn't place. Historians still argue whether she and Bonny were romantically involved or merely co-conspirators. The record is patchy, thanks to poor documentation and a healthy dose of myth-making. One diary insists they confessed everything before their arrest. Another insists they refused to speak a word, giving the court only their names and a steely glare. What no one disputes is that they wore trousers better than most men and carried pistols like they were born with them strapped to their thighs. You pull a belt tight, checking for your knife, your flint, and the scrap of lace you keep.
Hidden in your boot.
Sentimentality is dangerous, but it's hard to throw away the last thing you own that's purely yours. Lace from your mother's wedding dress, probably. You found it stuffed in your coat pocket on the day you ran. Maybe she meant for you to find it. Maybe you stole it. You'll never know. On deck, the wind bites through your shirt, stiff with salt. The sea stretches endless and grey. You squint into the horizon. No ships, no sails, just sky and the faint tang of opportunity. The rigging sings in the wind, a rhythmic creak like an old man's bones. You take a moment to stretch, your spine popping, your fingers stiff. Your disguise holds, but your body always remembers. You miss baths. You miss silence. You miss speaking in your own tone, without lowering it or clipping your vowels. Still, there's something thrilling in it, too. You move like a shadow, unnoticed. You carry secrets in your boots and power in your stillness. When the captain asks for volunteers to row ashore, you're the first to step forward. You don't speak. You let your actions do the talking. Big key. Other sailors, some suspicious, some indifferent, make room. Over time, suspicion fades when your sword stays sharp and your aim stays true. You've outdrunk most of them, outclimbed all of them. Once, during a drunken wrestling match, you threw a man twice your size over your shoulder and into the hold. He limped for 3 days. After that, they started calling you Red Jack. No one asked why Jack. You never corrected them. There's
Power in names, and you wear this one like armor. Better to be a mystery than a memory. The ship hits a swell and you lurch forward, catching a rope. Your fingers are blistered, nails broken, but the skin is tough. Tougher than when you started.
back when you didn't know how to tie a sailor's knot or load a musket in under 10 seconds. You think about Bonny. Legend says she was so furious when her lover refused to fight during a raid that she marched into his cell and told him, "If you'd fought like a man, you needn't be hanged like a dog." Harsh, but effective. She didn't waste time with the weak. Even the men feared her, not because she was cruel, but because she didn't pretend to be anything but deadly. You look around at the crew. They joke, spit, squabble. Most won't live to see their 40s. Few brush their teeth. Several have lice, but they've accepted you, not as a woman, not as a man, as something else, a constant, a crewmate, a survivor. They say pirates are lawless, but that's only half true. There's order here, forged from necessity, unspoken rules. If you steal from a mate, you swim. If you lie about a sighting, you're flogged. If you cheat in dice, they'll shave your head bald and paint your skull pink. You saw that once. The man still blushes when it rains. Clothing, names, even identities. These things shift at sea. They're like clouds, reforming, dissolving. But reputation, that's iron, and yours is solid. You haul the rope, tie it off, and nod at the bosun. He nods back. No words. Respect, communicated in salt and silence. Below deck, your bunk waits. Just a hammock, a tattered blanket, and the faint smell of mildew. But tonight, you earned your sleep. You survived another day without being exposed. You fought like a sailor, dressed like a ghost, and disappeared into the rhythm of the waves. You
Curl into the swaying canvas, boots off, knife close.
The sea murmurs, lullaby, soft. Somewhere above, stars scatter across the sky like spilled gunpowder. And you, hidden in plain sight, drift toward dreams. You wake to the scrape of dice on a barrel lid and the low thrum of gossip swirling below deck. The scent of dried fish and unwashed bodies lingers in the air like the ghost of last night's stew. Someone's arguing about who won the last round. Someone else is pretending to sleep, but clearly listening. You slip from your hammock, boots slung over your shoulder, stepping quietly across the planks. It's a delicate art, moving soundlessly. On a ship filled with people who would slit throats for half a biscuit, especially before breakfast. You ease past the cook's galley and the pile of crates labelled powder with shaky charcoal handwriting. No one ever stores gunpowder this close to the mess hall, But this is pirate life, equal parts chaos and charm. You duck into the shadows near the brig and pause, listening. That's where the real stories live, not in official logs or books, but in the whispered conversations beneath the rumble of cannons and the crack of sails. They say we're heading for Nassau.
No, Havana, I heard Tortuga. No, you twit. We're after that Spanish galleon, the one with the gold. Gold. Always gold. As if anyone on this ship would know what to do with it besides gamble it away or stitch it into their coat lining. Still, the word makes hearts beat faster. You've seen it happen. A single whisper of treasure turns grown men into schemers, makes old women sharpen their knives again. And yes, there are old women aboard.
Tougher than rope and twice as frayed, but still here. One of them, toothless and tattooed, once taught you how to read the sky by the color of clouds. Another showed you how to crack a lock with a chicken bone. You don't ask about their pasts, and they don't ask about yours. That's the deal. You share tools, stories, secrets, and occasionally socks. You wander further into the gloom, past hammocks swaying like spiderwebs. There's a group near the bulkhead, huddled over a makeshift game board drawn in soot. They're using musket. Balls for tokens, the stakes unclear. Probably chores or ears. As you approach, one looks up and nods. A silent invitation. You join the circle, cross-legged, warming your hands on a nearby lantern. The flickering light casts shadows across faces already hardened by sea and sun. The game resumes, but now the conversation shifts. Remember what happened on the Revenge? Someone mutters. Which one? The one with the mutiny, Captain. Fell overboard. Or jumped. Wasn't that the same ship where the cook poisoned everyone with bad eel? No, that was the drowned Bess. And the eel was fine. It was the cheese that killed them. Everyone laughs. Nervous laughter, the kind you offer when the ocean's deep and the stories are real. You listen, ears tuned to the undertones. There's something else under the chatter. An unease. A sense that the captain's hiding something. Maps have been moved. The quartermaster's been polishing his sword too often. And there's been no official word on your next port in days. You feel it too. The rhythm is off. Ships, like people, have moods. This one is twitchy. Still, the gossip rolls on. Did you hear about the woman who smuggled letters in her corset? She also smuggled 2 pistols and a love poem and stabbed a man with the poem. Paper cuts, huh? More laughter. You smile. You've heard versions of this story across 3 oceans. Sometimes the woman is Bonny, sometimes Mary Read, sometimes someone unnamed, a ghost with rouge and rage. Historians still argue whether any of these tales are true. Did female pirates really fight harder, hide better, love deeper? Or are we all just clinging to legends stitched together from scraps of truth and sea salt? Doesn't matter. The stories survive because they're needed. You need them. They remind you that identity is fluid, power is earned, and survival often wears a smile. Back in the galley, the cook is stirring something that might have been beans a week ago. He grunts when you pass him, nodding toward the captain's quarters. A summons. You sigh. You were hoping for a quiet morning, but the captain never calls unless it's serious or theatrical. He has a flair for the dramatic, once delivering a punishment speech entirely in rhyming verse. That was a day. You knock and enter. The room smells of pipe smoke and ink. Charts litter the desk like fallen leaves, and the captain's hat is perched on the back of his chair like a watching bird. He doesn't look up, just taps a map. What do you see? He asks. You lean in. The lines are recent, ink still shiny. There, beneath the palm frond sketch and the jagged coastline, a trail. Not just any trail, a hidden inlet, a path marked by coordinates rarely recorded.
A shortcut to something old, maybe Spanish, maybe cursed. Treasure, you ask. Something better, he replies, finally meeting your gaze. Freedom. Big word, often thrown around by men who never give it. But something about the way he says it chills you. Not fear, just anticipation. You leave without asking more. Best not to look too eager. Back outside, the crew is waking in waves, yawning and stretching and swearing. You return to the dice game, your mind elsewhere. You don't tell anyone.
About the map. Not yet. Not until you know more. For now, you roll the musket ball, fake a grin, and pretend not to notice the storm clouds gathering just above the horizon. The sky has turned a thick, leaden grey by midday. It presses down like
a headache you can't shake.
You tilt your face up to it, watching the clouds churn. No birds, no sun, just the taste of metal on your tongue, and that strange stillness sailors dread more than thunder. You know what's coming. Every joint in the ship feels it. The wood groans differently. The sails, half furled, rustle like anxious whispers. Somewhere below, someone drops a bucket. No one curses. Too quiet. You cinch your jacket tight, grab your sailcloth bag, and head up toward the quarterdeck. There's already a line forming. No, not for battle stations, for mending. Storm prep isn't glamorous. It's not the stuff of songs and drunken tales. It's needles, thick thread, tar-patched canvas, and fingers that bleed through thimbles. You settle in with your tools, knees braced against a barrel as the ship rolls gently. One hand holds the patch, the other drives the needle through, wet fabric. You've stitched torn shirts, ripped skin, sails cleaved by wind, and the occasional unfortunate who caught the edge of a splintered oar. There's a sort of peace in it. A rhythm. In, out, like the waves. You remember the old woman back in Port Royal who told you, a good sailor always carries three things: a sharp blade, a blunt opinion, and a sewing kit. She smelled of salt and brandy. Probably a pirate once. Probably still was. Needle in hand, you work quickly. The wind picks up, catching the edge of the sails like a breath held too long. The ship jerks slightly to starboard. A few of the younger crew look up from their tasks. One bites his lip. Another mutters a prayer in French. You've seen worse. You've stitched sails in rain so heavy it felt like the sea had risen to punch you in the face. You've climbed the rigging with blood in your mouth and salt water in your eyes. This is just a rehearsal. Still, you secure your bunk with extra rope and tuck your few possessions, knife, lace scrap, wax-sealed letter with no address, into a sealed pouch. You've lost friends to storms. Sometimes they go overboard. Sometimes the storm is quieter, an infection that sets in after a poorly bandaged wound. A cough that never clears. A blank stare that grows deeper every day. The sea takes in more ways than one. As you stow your tools, the first raindrop hits your cheek. It's warm, thick, the kind of drop that signals the rest are just waiting for their cue. You pull the oilcloth over your shoulders and head back up. The captain is shouting now. Sailors swarm the rigging, arms moving like spider legs across the ropes. You move to the forecastle and grab hold of a line, helping to secure a flapping canvas that wants nothing more than to fly off into legend. The wind bites. Your fingers, already raw, start to cramp. Behind you, someone screams. Not panic, just a warning. A wave, taller than the mainmast, slaps against the side of the ship. It doesn't capsize you, but it takes a barrel and a bucket, and half the pride out of the crew. The deck floods. You plant your feet, brace your weight, and dig in. Storms don't care about your identity, your secrets, your past. They want to see what you're made of, and you're made of rope burns. Cold stew and spite. The next hour is blur. Wind. Water. Screams. Orders. Cracking wood. A torn sail flaps loose and you're one of 4 sent up to secure it. You climb, hands numb, heart steady. The mast sways like a drunken poet, but you keep your balance. You always do. You tie off the last rope just as lightning splits the sky in 2. For a moment you're illuminated, just you and the storm, eye to eye, and then the world returns to grey. Back on deck, you collapse beside a barrel. The ship lurches again. You brace. Breathe. Listen. No screaming now, just panting, the kind of silent storms leave behind, the fragile kind, full of what-ifs and near misses. You help untangle ropes, drain water from the scuppers, and haul a shivering deckhand to his feet. He mutters thanks. You nod. You feel older than you did this morning. Later, in the galley, people speak quietly, as if afraid to tempt fate. The cook hands you a cloth-wrapped biscuit. It's hard enough to kill a man, but you bite it anyway. Hunger doesn't wait for softness. There's laughter, eventually. Not much, but enough. Someone makes a joke about the storm washing the lice off. Someone else coughs up seawater and says they've invented a new cocktail. You smile. The world keeps spinning. You return to your hammock and pull your blanket around your shoulders. Your fingers twitch, still remembering the motion of needle and thread. Storms tear, but they also reveal. Weak knots fail. Weak men whimper, but you held, you stitched, you stood. Historians still argue whether pirate crews actually trusted their women during crises. Some logs mention superstition, that women brought bad luck aboard. Others mention skill, that certain women were sought after as storm whisperers, seamstresses, and surgeons. You'd like to believe both are true. You do whisper to the storm sometimes, and your hands do know how to hold a bleeding chest together while singing a lullaby. Tonight you sleep with the taste of salt still in your teeth. The ship rocks you like a cradle. Somewhere far below, the ocean swells with secrets. And somewhere out there, in the dark, another storm is learning your name. The morning after the storm smells like damp rope, scorched tar, and a bit like someone tried to cook fish in a cannon. You wake with your legs tangled in the hammock, hair stiff with salt, fingers still curled as if gripping a rope. Outside your bunk, the ship creaks back into rhythm, and the crew speaks in hushed tones like survivors at a wake. Not everyone made it through the night. The loss isn't spoken outright. On pirate ships, mourning looks like silence, like someone carefully setting aside an empty mug at breakfast. Like a coat left hanging on a hook, untouched, you rise, stretch, and brush grit off your shirt. The captain's voice rings out, sharp and theatrical, calling everyone to the quarterdeck. You groan. When he uses that tone, he's about to make it official. You join the others, pushing past damp sails and half-dried laundry, flapping like ghost flags. The crew gathers, some wet-haired and yawning, others stone-faced. He's got the pirate code in hand, a thick, stained sheet of parchment with more edits and additions than a playwright's notebook. He begins to read. Article 17. Any crewman caught stealing shall lose 1 finger. If said theft involves
rum, 2 fingers. If cheese, they walk the plank. Murmurs ripple through the crew. It's not the code that's funny. It's the fact that someone apparently snuck into the cheese stores during the storm. Again, you smirk.
cheese theft is the one crime that always resurfaces. Must be the thrill or the rarity. A single wheel of aged cheddar is more precious than gold out here. But there's more to this meeting. The captain waves the parchment and adds something new, a bedtime rule. From this night forward, no boots in hammocks. It offends the spirits. There's a pause, then scattered laughter. You join in. Pirate codes often mix superstition with surprisingly domestic logic. No gambling on Sundays, no duels before breakfast. Laundry day is Friday unless the ship is under attack. These aren't laws, they're agreements, guidelines that keep the chaos just contained enough to avoid full collapse. You remember when you first read a copy of the pirate code hidden under a rum bottle in the back room the tavern. It felt less like rules and more like a promise, a pact between outcasts. Here, you don't need birthright or a last name, you just need a vote. Yes, pirates vote on leaders, on loot division, on whether or not you get a second helping of dried fruit. It's a system, chaotic but democratic. The quartermaster often holds more actual power than the captain, and if the crew decides they're sick of you, they can toss you overboard with a majority rule. Historians still argue whether this system was truly equitable or just another form of charismatic dictatorship. Did the votes really matter, or did the biggest sword win? What's clear is that for a woman disguised as a man, or not disguised at all, it was one of the few systems in the 17th or 18th century that allowed any say in anything, a rare pocket of agency in a world otherwise locked behind corsets and marriage contracts. You glance around at your crewmates. Some still think you're a man, others suspect, a few probably know. But no one says anything. You've earned your cut. That's all that matters. Back below, the galley is bustling again. You trade your spot in the rigging for a stool near the fire. Today's task, boiling water. Simple enough until you remember that someone tried to use the last of the coffee beans to line their boots during the storm. You sniff the sack. Yep, boot beans. You sigh. Tea it is. You grab a handful of herbs from your stash. Mint, a little cinnamon bark, and something vaguely lemony you once traded from a healer on St. Kitts. You boil it slow, letting the smell waft through the galley. The scent draws people in, not just for the warmth, but for the memory. Tea means calm. Tea means someone's still alive enough to care. Even pirates crave comfort. You pass around cups. Steam curls from chipped mugs and conversation starts again. Someone mentions a ship spotted at dawn. A merchant vessel, maybe. Someone else wants to sail closer to the coast. Someone's still muttering about the cheese. Then a soft voice near your shoulder. You think it's true what he said? About the spirits? You shrug. Spirits don't care about boots, but maybe they care about respect. The girl, barely older than 15, nods solemnly. She's new, took the job for the pay, stayed because her village burned, and there was nowhere else to go. You taught her how to tie knots last week. She's fast, quicker than you were. You hand her the last cup. She smiles, and you see it. What makes pirates truly terrifying? It's not the blades, it's not the bombs. It's the fact that in the middle of the lawless ocean, they still make space for tea. That night, the new code is posted above the
galley with a nail and a flourish. Boots in hammocks forbidden. Cheese theft punishable by ballad. Apparently someone's written a song about it. You look forward to the premiere. The island appears at dawn, rising out of the haze like a
misplaced thought. Jagged cliffs, palms like crooked fingers, a ribbon of beach so pale it seems drawn in chalk. No harbour, no dock, not even a friendly flag fluttering in the breeze. Just a strip of sand and secrets. You stand near the bow, arms crossed, watching. The gulls circle. The sea is suspiciously still, a bad sign. Flat water always hides sharp teeth. We're stopping? You ask the quartermaster, who's chewing tobacco like it wronged him personally. He grunts.
Marooning? Your stomach sinks. You've seen this before. The sentence is exile, no trial, no votes, just a rowboat, a canteen, and a vague sense of farewell. The crew buzzes with whispers. You listen, pretending to work a knot, ears catching.
Fragments. Someone broke the code. Someone took more than their share. Someone touched the captain's compass. No one knows for sure, but everyone nods like they do. The guilty party is already in the boat, hands bound, eyes blank. A woman. You recognize her, one of the sail crew. Quiet. Good with knots. Maybe too good. You watch as she's rowed ashore. No one speaks. No one sings. The silence is as thick as the heat. But here's the twist. She's smiling. You catch it. Just before they push off, she tucks something into the sand, a little bundle wrapped in cloth. You'd swear it's twine, shells, and maybe, just maybe, a bar of soap. The rowboat returns. She's left alone. You won't see her again. Probably. But pirates are nothing if not surprising. Weeks later, you'll hear rumors in Nassau of a beach queen who sells shell necklaces for coin and sharpened bone for silence. People say she's tamed a goat, set traps for sailors, and still braids her hair with rope dyed in squid ink. Marooning, it turns out, isn't always an ending. Sometimes it's just a pivot. Back on the ship, the mood lifts. Punishment is done. Justice, messy and sand-covered, has been served. But something lingers in the air. That tension, that thought. What if it were me? You return to your hammock, thoughtful. You've made enemies, you've bested liars, you've kept your secrets stitched tight, but even stitches fray. The next morning, laundry day arrives. Yes, even pirates do laundry. No one wants lice more than once. You hang your shirt alongside breeches, both stiff with salt and patched beyond recognition. You hum as you scrub. It's calming, honest. A moment where everything is small. Soap, water, sunlight. Nothing dramatic. A crewmate joins you, one of the musicians. She plays the fiddle during evening meals and last week threatened someone with a bowstring. She nods at your bucket. Got any lemon left? You hand her half a rind. She drops it into her rinse basin, murmuring thanks. Lemon, they say, keeps the fabric from stiffening. Also keeps spirits away, or invites them. Historians still argue about that one. You wash quietly, watching your shadow stretch long across the deck. There's something humbling about doing chores under open sky with cannons a few feet away. But there's beauty in it too. The line of shirts waving like flags of independence. The scent of lavender, someone tucked in a sock drawer. The communal satisfaction of clean linen and no yelling. You think again of the marooned woman. You wonder what she's doing right now. Building a hut? Boiling seawater? Talking to herself? Talking to the goat? There's power in solitude. You've felt it. In the crow's nest at midnight. In the quiet between cannon shots. In the deep, bone-still silence of mending sails at dawn. That silence makes you remember who you are beneath the persona. Not Red Jack. Not he. Not they. Just you. The clothes flap dry. You gather them, folding carefully. Someone once said that how you care for your shirt is how you care for your future. That might have been your mother. Or a pickpocket pretending to be your,
aunt. Either way, it's stuck. Later you find something tucked in your laundry bag.
A shell necklace, small, rough, but strung with care. No note, no clue, just the faint smell of lemon and island wind. You stare at it for a long time, then you smile. You're elbow deep in grease and fish guts when love walks into your life wearing a blood-stained sash and 2 pistols. Typical. He or she, depending on the day, has a smile like broken glass. Sharp, dangerous, impossible to ignore. You've been avoiding this. You told yourself romance was for land. But it turns out the heart doesn't care about logistics or knots, or whether you're technically sharing a hammock with a knife tucked under your pillow. It starts slow. A shared glance during a raid, a smirk as you both dive for the same coin, purse. One night you trade stories over a half-burnt stew and end up comparing scars. The next night you're sparring with blades, laughing as they nearly clip your ear. By the 3rd week, they're stealing your socks and leaving bread crusts, shaped like hearts on your crate. It's reckless, of course. This ship isn't built for tenderness, even less so for secrets. The crew already trades rumors like currency, who owes rum, who can't tie a proper reef knot, who talks in their sleep. Add a romance to the mix, and it becomes fuel. You try to keep it quiet. You pretend to argue louder than you actually do. You throw boots, they throw insults. It's all very theatrical. The crew eats it up, thinking you're rivals. And maybe you are, because on this ship, love doesn't mean sweet poems and kisses at sunset. It means someone watches your back when the captain's in a mood. It means someone sharpens your knife while you're asleep. It means someone who won't hesitate to shoot you in the leg if you ever betray them, but will also kill anyone else. Who tries? You once heard of a pirate couple, 2 women, who passed as brothers for years. They ran a sloop together, robbed a Spanish governor blind, and kept a tame monkey named Ignacio. Historians still argue whether they were lovers, sisters, or simply brilliant business partners. But every version ends the same way. Together, rich and slightly sunburned. You dream of that sometimes. A boat of your own. A quiet bay. A hammock built for 2. Then you wake up because someone's screaming. You rush to the deck, barefoot, heart pounding. It's your lookout, your love, pointing toward the horizon. A ship, slim and fast, with sails painted black and a figurehead shaped like a snarling wolf. You recognize it. The Viento Rojo, a mercenary vessel, fast, vicious, and annoyingly
Punctual. You're not ready for a fight, but ready isn't a thing here.
ready is a luxury. Pirates live in improvisation. You run to the cannon, start loading. Your love is beside you, calm as ever, singing under their breath as they load pistols. The crew scrambles. Orders are barked. The wind shifts. The battle is swift and messy. You fire, reload, fire again. At one point, you catch sight of your partner clinging to the side of the enemy's hull, dagger between teeth, eyes wild. It's the hottest thing you've ever seen. The fighting ends with the Viento Rojo limping away, smoking like a tavern on fire. Your ship is bruised, but intact. A few new holes, a few less crew. You find your partner by the helm, bleeding from a shallow cut on their arm. You always get the fancy ones, you mutter. They grin. You're just jealous I look better swinging from the ropes. You snort, take their arm, and lead them below deck to patch the wound. As you clean it, they wince once, then lean closer. You know, they murmur, if you're trying to seduce me with bandages and blood, it's working. You roll your eyes, but you smile too. Later, you sit together under the stars, sharing a flask and a blanket that smells of gunpowder. You don't talk about what this is, no declarations, no promises, just warmth, breathing, the brush of shoulders. You fall asleep like that. And in your dreams, the monkey named Ignacio finally learns to juggle. You wake to the scent of salt and sweat, the creak of wood, and someone softly snoring into a coil of rope. Your partner, your rival, your heartbeat with boots is already gone, probably off trying to win back their hat in another knife-throwing contest. You stretch, scratch your scalp, and shuffle toward the galley in search of something vaguely edible. Halfway there, you hear it, a name, low and reverent, like someone just said ghost on a church pew. "Anne Bonny," whispers a crewmate, eyes wide. "Swear on my mother's grave I saw her, in Havana, still alive, still angry." You perk up. Anne Bonny's stories are always worth eavesdropping on. She had pistols, the sailor says, and a feather in her hat like a bleeding phoenix. Someone scoffs. "Anne Bonny's bones are buried under 10 feet of coral and curses," another voice. "No, she escaped. Bought a tavern, married a Dutch woman, raises goats now. You've heard all these stories before. Anne Bonny has become
a myth, a placeholder for everything that refuses to die neatly. Some say she was hanged in 1721. Others insist she talked her way out of the noose by being pregnant. Twice.
A few claim she vanished, turned herself into a hurricane, and has been storm-chasing Spanish ships ever since. Historians still argue whether her grave was ever found, whether she escaped, whether she and Mary Read were truly lovers or just convenient.
Legends told by nervous men trying to explain why their gold vanished, with 2 women who drank harder, swore louder, and stabbed faster than any of them. You like the version where she outlives them all, and you like to think you once met her, though you never say it out loud. It was back in Port-de-Paix. You were fresh off a run, face still bruised, heart still aching. You walked into a candlelit inn with a low ceiling and the stink of stale cider. A woman was sitting at the bar, legs crossed, hat shadowing her face. Her pistol was engraved with roses. Her laugh was hoarse and low. She bought you a drink, said your eyes looked like stormy seas. You said she talked too much. She taught you a card trick. You taught her a knot. She kissed your cheek when she left and told you never to fall for someone who can't reload with their eyes closed. You never caught her name. You glance around the ship now at the rough faces and scarred hands and wonder how many legends pass through unnoticed. How many Anne Bonnys or Mary Reads are hiding in plain sight, disguised, rewritten, unclaimed by the history books, because they didn't leave behind anything that smelled like paperwork. You head up to the deck, squinting at the sun.
It's high and mean today, beating down on sails and shoulders alike. The lookout calls down. "Sloop off starboard, no colours." The captain emerges from his quarters, coat open, eyes half-lidded with sleep and suspicion. He barks orders, and within moments the ship is a blur of movement, sails adjusted, weapons readied, everyone on edge. You move to the rail, spying the distant vessel. It's small, quick, barely armed. You feel something strange, something nostalgic. Because suddenly you remember you've seen that boat before. That's Margaret's boat, Margaret the ghost. Margaret the maybe pirate. Margaret, the possibly fictional composite of multiple 17th century female seafarers, according to some dry historian whose book you read once under the floorboards during a storm. But you know her. At least you think you do. She's the one with the cat that steals knives. The one who tattooed coordinates across her shoulder blades and once poisoned an entire dock's worth of rum just to avoid taxes. You'd sailed with her briefly, back when you were still pretending to be mute. She figured you out in 5 minutes, handed you a mango and said, "Don't worry, I'm not real either." She disappeared in the middle of the night 2 summers ago, left nothing but a goat hoof in the mess hall and a note that said, "Keep the wind, I'm taking the stars." And now her sloop floats out there like a memory. You lean forward. The captain lifts a glass to his eye. A long pause. Then let it pass. Just like that, no chase, no raid. Just a nod to something too strange to touch. You watch the sloop drift by, sails full. Crew unseen. You swear just for a moment. You see someone on deck. Raise a teacup in salute. You raise your hand in return, just in case. Back below deck, the talk continues. Anne's alive, someone insists. Mary faked her death. Margaret's not real. Neither are you after 3 rations of rum. You laugh quietly and head to your bunk. Tucked behind your hammock is a letter you've never opened. The wax seal is Margaret's, a fishbone and a star. One day you'll read it, but not today. Some truths are better whispered by the sea. The sun has retreated behind a curtain of soft grey clouds, and the sea is breathing slow again, long, even, swells that cradle the ship like a grandmother humming a forgotten lullaby. You're down in the galley, elbow propped on the sticky table, watching your tea leaves swirl in the bottom of a chipped ceramic mug. Across from you, one of the older crewmates is sorting herbs. Not for cooking, though that's part of it. These herbs have a different purpose. You recognize chamomile, yarrow, and something that might be dried orange peel, or might be pirate toenail. You don't ask. You feel that? The crewmate says without looking up. Change in the air, you nod slowly. You've been feeling it for days. That prickling between your shoulder blades, the way birds fly lower, the way the rats, those ever-intuitive, salt-cured prophets, have gotten twitchier than usual. The captain's been muttering about buried treasure, of course. But now he's serious. There's a map on his desk with more ink than parchment, and the whispers say it's been copied from a Jesuit's stolen journal. Others claim it came from a Dutchman's final breath, right before he choked on a spoonful of sand. Treasure. Hunts on pirate ships are funny things. You'd think they'd be exciting, full of glory and anticipation. Instead, they're quiet, paranoid. The excitement curdles into suspicion faster than milk in the tropics. You feel it starting now. Someone's hidden their boots. Someone else is sharpening a spoon with unnecessary aggression. Everyone's checking their packs more often, counting rations, tucking flint and coin into secret pockets. Not because they want the gold, but because they're not sure who will stab who first. You've seen it before, but you also know a secret. The best way to keep a crew from unraveling is tea. Good, old-fashioned, hot tea. You slip out to the deck with your mug and a few wrapped bundles of calming herbs, your own invention. You hand them out without comment. A little mint for stomachs, a little dried hibiscus for morale, and just a touch of powdered valerian root to take the edge off the growing tension. It's not magic, but it works. Back in the galley, the cook gives you a nod of respect. High praise, considering he once stabbed a man with a ladle for insulting.
Here's dumplings. You slide into the corner to rest, your satchel beside you.
Inside, tucked behind your sewing kit and wax-sealed packet of lavender, is your copy of the treasure map. You didn't steal it. Not exactly. You made your own copy late at night by moonlight and habit. You have sharp eyes, and the captain doesn't always lock his door. The trail marked leads through dangerous waters, reefs, currents, a channel known for swallowing whole ships. And at the end, an island shaped like a crocodile with a beach full of white stones. Supposedly, you study the drawing, then you fold it and slip it away. Treasure's never just gold, it's whatever keeps you going. A goal, a promise, a distraction. You're not even sure you care about coins or jewels, but you do care about getting there before the man with the spoon knife. As you return to your post, a voice calls to you from behind the sails. It's her, Eliza, one of the oldest on board. nearly toothless, blind in one eye, always chewing cloves and muttering about weather spirits. She's got a basket in her lap and is breaking up dried flower petals between her fingers. I put chamomile in the cannonballs, she says. You blink. What? She grins, a row of half-gums and mischief. Only the ones we're not using yet. Just a little sachet. Softens the smell when they fire, keeps the lads calm. You stare at her. She shrugs. Men don't ask what's inside the doors.
Cannonball, do they? You laugh, can't help it? Then sit beside her, take some petals, and help her stuff the next batch. Lavender for clarity, rosemary for courage, mint because it's mint. You wonder what the enemy will think when their
deck is littered with fragrant shrapnel. Probably confusion. Maybe serenity. Historians still argue whether pirates ever truly used herbs for combat. Some journals mention healing poultices, others suggest certain captains believed in protection spells. One particularly strange log from a French brig describes an encounter with a pirate crew that insisted on blowing sage smoke over their weapons before every boarding. Real or not, the story persists because it feels true. And honestly, that's half the battle. You finish your batch and return to the hold. You hang your satchel on its peg, secure your boots with a knot only you can undo, and check your knife twice. Then 3 times. There's no official word yet, but everyone knows. You're close. The map's end is near. The crew feels it in their joints, in their dreams, in the way the cat won't stop meowing at the compass. You lie back in your hammock, swinging slowly. The ship creaks like an old lullaby. Someone snores nearby. Someone else mutters in their sleep. And you whisper a prayer to whatever saint listens to women who wear boots and boil chamomile inside cannonballs. You're ankle deep in flour when the cannon fires. Not at anyone, not even a warning shot, just a test, a blast into the sky, a ritual. The captain says, to wake the sea gods and announce your approach. You don't believe in sea gods. Not exactly. But you still mutter a quiet apology to the air as the echo fades over the water. Just in case. You brush the flour from your hands and open the brick oven's iron flap. Inside, nestled on a scorched slab of stone, are 6 hard rolls, lumpy, golden, ugly as sin and utterly miraculous. Bread is rare out here. Real bread, not the chalky biscuits that taste like regret and damp. You tap one, nod in satisfaction, then yell up through the hatch. Warm bread! Eat now, or starve later. Half the ship thunders down within minutes. They know better than to miss bread day. You dole out the rolls one by one, slipping one extra into your satchel, not for later, for offering, for luck. You've made it a tradition. Every time before a raid or an unknown island, you leave bread at the prow for whatever.
forces are listening. It's not superstition.
It's strategy. The kind that costs nothing and might save your life. The captain appears, scarfed and smirking, with that gleam in his eye he gets before things go sideways. Today, he declares, tearing a piece of bread in half and gesturing wildly, we become legends. Didn't we do that last week? Someone mutters. Last week was rehearsal, he replies. You snort and get back to work. There's a lot to do before landing. The sails need trimming, the ropes need oil, and someone's rigged a bucket trap over the hatch again. You suspect your partner. They've been oddly cheerful ever since your shared knife-throwing incident last week. Love apparently is 1 part laughter, 2 parts booby traps. By midday, the island is in full view. It's long and low, fringed in white sand and gnarled mangroves, No flag, no dock. Just that hush of wildness, like a house no one's entered in years. You're close now. The map is tucked into the captain's coat, but half the crew has memorized it. They whisper about what's buried, chests of doubloons, gold crosses, pearls, relics from empires long since dissolved into dust and rot. But you're more interested in the other rumors. The hidden springs, the glowing cave, the birds that sing lullabies in languages no one remembers. Historians still argue whether the so-called Ghost Island ever existed. Some call it a fabrication, a sailor's hallucination born from hunger and heat stroke. Others swear it was a pirate haven shielded by reefs and illusion where the outcast and the clever disappeared into paradise. You hope they're wrong. You hope it's real. As the crew assembles for the rowboats, you sling your bag over your shoulder. Knife, tea satchel, spare bread.
And tucked carefully between your water flask and your sewing kit, a folded map of your own. Not of treasure, not of ports. It's a map of debts, of favors, of who owes who would bleed for you and who would sell you for a pineapple. It's not on paper. It's in your head, but it's the most valuable map you have. Your partner appears beside you, tossing a pistol from hand to hand.
You ready? Always, you say. They grin. Try not to fall in this time. That was one time. It was twice. You board the boat. The row toward shore is quiet. Just the splash of oars, the creak of wood, and the occasional sigh of someone praying under their breath. You land without incident. Sand shifts under your boots, soft, pale, and oddly warm. The trees lean over you like curious watchers. The air is heavy with the scent of moss and salt and something almost floral, like a memory of perfume left too long in a drawer. The captain calls out a direction. You split into groups. You head inland, machete in hand, slashing through vines and spiderwebs following a trail of disturbed roots that might be natural or might be footprints a century old. The jungle hushes around you. You pass a stone, just a stone, but something about it. It's carved, rough, eroded, but deliberate. You run your fingers along the groove. Letters, maybe. A warning, maybe. A joke, maybe. You move on. Ahead, the air cools. You break through a curtain of hanging moss and find yourself in a clearing. Silent. Circular. The kind of place that feels purposeful. At the center is a mound of stones. You don't move. Your partner steps beside you. That it? You don't.
Answer. Because something tells you you're not the first to find it, and you won't be the last. You pull out your bread, still warm. You place it gently on the stone, just in case. You don't dig right away. You circle the mound instead.
Slowly, feet soft on moss, eyes scanning for traps, tricks, anything that suggests this isn't what it seems, because treasure doesn't just sit politely under rocks. It hides, it waits, sometimes it bites. Your partner stands a little back,
hand resting casually on their pistol, but fingers twitching like they're itching for something to go wrong.
You know that stance. It means they're nervous. You don't blame them. You kneel and begin moving stones. They're heavy, slick with age. Some shift easily. Others cling like they've sworn loyalty to the dirt. You work in silence, your partner, keeping watch, the jungle murmuring with insect wings and leaves brushing against one another like gossiping old women. Under the last layer of stone is a slab of wood. You both freeze. It's pale, water-warped and carved with symbols you don't recognize, half-sun shapes, waves, maybe a bird, or a crown, or a bird wearing a crown. Hard to tell. You touch it, cool to the fingertips. The air seems to hold its breath. Ready? You whisper. Your partner nods, drawing their blade. You pry the slab free, and there it is. Treasure. Kind of. It's not gold, not jewels. It's stranger. A box, ornate, metal-bound, iron hinges rusted and humming with age. Around it, packed in layers of thick oilskin, are scrolls, drawings, letters, and something that looks very much like a corset with silver stitching. Your partner whistles low. Someone was fancy. You lift the box. Heavy, secure, you shake. It gently, it rattles. Inside rings, maybe. You don't open it yet. Not here, not in the open. You take a scroll, unfurl it carefully. A map. Not of land, of stars. You exchange a look with your partner. They nod toward the tree line. Let's move. You pack everything tight and disappear into the trees just as the shouting starts. Another group found something, or didn't, or fought over something imagined. Either way, it's noise, and noise is danger. You keep moving. Back on the ship, the crew gathers around as the findings are spread across the deck. Trinkets, bones, a rusted sword, 3 coins that might be Roman or might be buttons from a very dramatic coat. No one found anything quite like what you found, which is why you don't tell them. You slip the star map into your hammock bag. You keep the silver-sticked corset folded beneath your blanket. You bury the box under a floorboard near the galley, in a hollow space where you once hid biscuits during a ration dispute. You sleep with one eye open that night. The next day, someone notices the slab of bread you left on the mound. It's
Gone, they whisper. Eaten! A crewmate snorts. Birds! Another shakes their head. Birds don't eat crust that clean. The tail spreads. Some say the treasure was protected by a spirit who now follows the ship, humming lullabies.
in the sails. Others claim the bread was taken as tribute and you'll be spared the curse that's surely coming for the rest of them. You don't argue. But that night, when the ship groans unusually loud in calm waters, you reach for your tea pouch. You brew something strong, calming, fragrant, sacred, and you whisper thanks to whatever might be listening. The next morning, your partner finds you by the railing, tea in hand. You going to tell them? They ask. About the star map? About the corset? You shrug. Not yet. They grin. Good. I'd have to duel you if you did. You raise your mug. Wouldn't be the first time. They lean against the railing beside you. Below deck, someone sings. A lullaby, slow and soft. The same one you heard in the clearing. But no one remembers who taught it. Historians still argue whether female pirates kept personal journals, star maps, heirlooms. Few survive. Too many were burned, lost, buried deep in state archives or locked away in the vaults of museums too proud to admit they were stolen. But every so often, something surfaces, ink-stained pages detailing tides, or letters never sent, or corsets sewn with coins for escape. You think of the box, still sealed. You think of opening it. Not yet. For now, you stand beside your partner, listening to the wind, the waves, and the ghosts in the sails. And you smile. You dream of mermaids that night, not the pretty kind with seashell bras and flirtatious songs. These ones are sharp-toothed, tattooed, and ride dolphins like war horses. One of them looks suspiciously like your partner. Another has your mother's voice, and she's telling you to stop slouching even as she brandishes a trident. You wake.
Up tangled in your hammock, your tea pouch tucked under your chin like a teddy bear.
You stretch, groan, and shuffle above deck into the silver, pre-dawn light. That's when you notice it. No wind. The sails droop. still as laundry on a dead clothesline. The sea has gone glassy, perfectly smooth, a mirror too afraid to breathe. You hate this. Everyone does. Pirates fear calm seas more than cannon fire. A becalmed ship means stagnation, hunger, madness. There are no port towns out here, no passing ships to rob, no wind to chase or flee, so the crew waits. And waiting makes pirates weird. You watch as a man tries to teach a parrot chess. Someone else carves dice from dried beans. A fight breaks out over a spoon. Not because it was stolen, because it was looking judgmental. Your partner appears at your side with an apple they definitely didn't pay for. "We should mutiny," they say casually. You raise an eyebrow. "Not because of the captain," they continue, crunching the apple.
"I just think we'd be better at it." You snort. "You can't even tie a proper bowline." "I could learn." They grin. You grin back. But beneath it, there's tension. The kind that creeps in when people have nothing left to do but
Think one of the youngest crew members sits cross-legged on the deck, mumbling to herself and stacking cannonballs into a pyramid. You make a mental note to keep an eye on her. Stillness doesn't suit everyone. Then the mutiny talk begins. Seriously, not yet, just whispered jokes, eye rolls when the captain turns his back. But the air has shifted. People need movement, purpose, wind. And when they don't get it, they invent it. A crewmate slams a tankard down beside you. You feel it, don't you? Feel what? The curse. You stare. The treasure we found, it's cursed. Stole. The wind. We're being punished. You sip your tea slowly. Maybe we're just unlucky. He narrows his eyes. No, we took something sacred. And now the sea's holding her breath. You don't tell him about the corset under your hammock or the box under the galley floor. You just nod, slow and solemn. Could be. That night, you take extra shifts. You polish the compass housing until it shines. You whisper apologies to the mast. You even sprinkle rosemary over the rails just in case. And when you lie down to rest, you leave a biscuit by the door. At midnight, the moon turns red. Or maybe it just looks that way. The clouds haze over it like smudged fingerprints. Someone screams. Another dreams too loud, and then comes the singing soft.
Wordless, not from any throat you recognize. It floats across the deck like perfume, like smoke. Too sweet.
Too sad. You bolt upright, heart racing. No one else reacts. You creep outside, no one singing, except maybe the sea. You sit near the prow, gripping the rail, staring into water black as ink. And just as you're about to turn back, you see it. Face. Half submerged, pale, watching, then gone. You don't speak of it, not the next day, not ever, because when the wind finally returns, just a breath, a whisper, it comes from behind you, and it smells like lilies. The sails puff, the ship sighs, everyone cheers. You say nothing, you brew strong tea, you help mend ropes, you tell a story about mermaids riding jellyfish into battle. Everyone laughs. Historians still argue whether pirates truly believed in sea spirit. Some logs are full of rituals, charms, chants. Others dismiss it as tavern, tales and rum hallucinations. But you've seen things, you've left bread, you've whispered to the stars. You've heard lullabies in dead air and seen faces in water where none should be. And the wind obeys you now, or fears you. Either way, you're moving again. You wake to wind in the sails and hair in your mouth, a good sign. The ship is alive again, slicing through the sea like it remembers how. The ropes hum. The wood groans with purpose. The crew's posture is straighter, like everyone just remembered they have vertebrae. You stumble onto the deck, brushing tangled strands from your eyes, and find the lookout pointing excitedly. Land! You squint, not just any land. A crescent-shaped spit of jungle and black rock, low mist curling around the treetops. The island from the star map. You don't even need to check, you feel it. You slip your hand into your satchel and run your fingers over the map's edge just to be sure. The captain gives the usual speech. Glorious riches. First pick goes to the crew. Shares evenly split. Unless someone finds a crown, then it's his. Obviously, everyone laughs. Your partner leans over and whispers, "You want a crown? I want clean socks." Modest. Powers.
Overrated. They nudge you with their elbow. I'll remember that when we're kings. By mid-morning, you've dropped anchor just offshore. The water's shallow, clear enough to see fish scatter as the rowboats hit the surf.
You help load crates, water, rations, rope, and 3 of your special tea pouches for peacekeeping. It's your job to make the mood better, not officially. But you've taken it on, you step onto the sand, and instantly feel watched. Not in a threatening way, more like the island is curious about you. You head inland. The jungle is thick with hanging vines and birds calling in short, angry bursts. Your machete works quickly. You know this rhythm now. Step, slash, duck, repeat. The crew follows in a lurching line, more caravan than army. At the head, the captain consults the star map. You lag behind, on purpose, because you have your own destination in mind. A few twists of the path, a few lies told with a confident smile, and you're gone. Your partner follows, of course, silent as ever, eyes glinting. You're not subtle, you say. I'm dumb, not trying to be. They shrug. You didn't invite me, but I like the scenery. The 2 of you veer off, toward the ridge where, according to the notes on your scroll, something valuable once stood. A shrine, a vault, a bakery. The handwriting was very dramatic. At the top, you find ruins, columns of carved stone, eroded faces, symbols like stars with extra arms. A shallow pool sits in the center, algae-covered and still as death. But the reflection shows the sky above perfectly. You kneel, not from reverence, from caution. Your partner circles the pool. No gold, they say, no surprise, you reply. Because here's the truth. The older the treasure, the less it shines. You kneel beside a stone chest, its lock long since rotted. You pry it open with a knife. Inside, a book. Leather-bound, damp at the edges, wrapped in a scarf that looks oddly familiar. You unfold it, a name stitched in faded thread. A. B. Ann Bonny. You don't know, could be coincidence, could be a joke, but your partner sees your face and says, "It's her, isn't it?" You don't answer. The book's pages are full of charts, diagrams, strange lists like cargo manifests with notes in the margins. Too loud. Won't last the crossing. Keep away from fire. You slip it into your bag. At the bottom of the chest, wrapped in wax cloth, is a bottle. Inside, ink, black as the sea, and a brush. You smile. Back on the beach, the rest of the crew is arguing over a pile of coral that may or may not be coins. Someone is bleeding from the forehead. Someone else is asleep. You and your partner return quietly, unnoticed. The captain is still searching. That night, you sit in your hammock with the book open on your lap, and for the first time in years, you start to draw. Not maps, Not traps, but faces. Yours, your partner's, the sea and the island that never asked. For gold, just memory. Historians still argue whether pirate maps were drawn in blood, or ink, or myth. But this one will be drawn in truth. Tomorrow, you'll stash the book under the floorboard. Not to hide it, to keep it safe. Because some treasures aren't meant to be stolen. They're meant to be remembered. You wake early, before the cook curses the firebox or someone drops a boot through the slats overhead. The air is cooled, almost kind, and the sky is a soft smear of lavender. You sit up in your hammock, brush the sleep from your face, and run your fingers along, the spine of the book hidden beneath your blanket. Still there. Still safe. Above deck, the ship is drifting gently, the island fading into the mist behind you. You're leaving with less than expected. No trunks of gold, no ceremonial spears, no jeweled crowns. Just stories, fragments, and whatever that bottle of ink truly contains. You sit beside your partner near the aft rail, sharing the last piece of mango someone stole 3 days ago and forgot to hide properly. We didn't tell them, they say after a while, licking juice from their thumb. No, you reply. They nod. Good. Neither of you says what you're thinking, that some things are too delicate for crew politics, that knowledge can rot when handled with too many hands, that you've learned to treasure silence. Below deck, a crewmate is humming the same lullaby. From the island, the one no one remembers learning. You hum it now, softly, and your partner joins in half a beat behind. By midday, it rains. A soft, steady drizzle. Cleansing, not punishing. You mend your socks by lantern light, needle moving steady through worn wool. The galley smells of cardamom and boiled onions. The cook's in a good mood, which means dinner will come without threats. As you stitch, you notice a new hole in your shirt, a slice. Too clean to be accidental. Someone searched your things. You don't panic. You finish your seam, take a sip of tea, and go topside. You find the quartermaster by the helm. Lose something? You ask, voice casual. He shrugs. Looking for my knife. Maybe it found a better home? He smirks. Neither of you blinks. Pirates don't need jewels to win wars. They just need memory. And patience. You make a note in your mental ledger. The quartermaster is curious. He suspects you have something. He's probably right. You return to your hammock and check your bag. The book is untouched, the bottle undisturbed, but the corset is gone. You curse. Quietly, respectfully, you don't wear it. You never planned to. It wasn't your size anyway. But it was a symbol, a link to someone, something, a life sewn with thread stronger than silk. It felt like proof. Now it's in the hands of a man who polishes his boots during storms. You feel the rage build, slow and cold. Then you breathe it down. Not now. You'll get it back. That night, during meal hour, the quartermaster's chair is empty. So is his hammock. The crew says nothing. No one admits to seeing him go overboard. But your partner winks at you. Later, you find the corset folded neatly on your bunk with a note. Still not your size. You laugh. Then cry. Then fall asleep, holding it like a memory. Historians still argue whether female pirates supported each other or fought for the few places allowed to them. Some say they formed secret networks helping one another escape, survive, rebuild. Others believe competition consumed them, that there wasn't enough space for all of them to win. You know better. You've been helped by hands rougher than your own, taught knots by women twice your age who never asked your name. You've handed off your last piece of bread and found 3 more in its place the next morning. It's not about space, it's about knowing someone else is out there, living, sailing, breathing like you. The ship is older now, or maybe you are. You notice it in the way the sails sigh instead of snap, how the wood beneath your boots feels less like a battlefield and more like a cradle. The crew is quieter too. They laugh softer, fight less. Some of the younger ones have started asking you things: how to mend a coat, how to read the stars, how to tell if a storm is bluffing.